equipment, they can be 50 kilometers away, and that's farther than the Russians can use with their equipment. So the Ukrainians should have better equipment to fire into the Russian areas to stop them from doing any more. We hope.
Thank
That's
God.
What we hope.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, so you got women and children that you're trying to do what I call crisis counseling, right? And
basically, yes. The children less than the women, and the men are mostly have to work or go to war. They don't. Yeah. They're not allowed. They're not allowed to do things. Right now, people are sending us children, and all of them have been. I asked them today, actually, or yesterday. I don't remember. I asked them, raise your hand. Did any of you have to hide in the basement of your building?
Yeah.
And about half of them raised their hands.
Yeah.
And so they've all gone through a certain amount of trauma.
Yeah.
But when they're here in nature, it's beautiful. With everybody is, they're friends, so they're able to think better. And so that is their main goal.
Survive.
Of doing things. Let me play a joke with you.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
No, who is that?
That's my wife.
Oh, hello, honey. We love you. We really love you. Oh, my God. Lots of prayers for you. Okay. It's so nice to see both of you.
She's teaching. She's of course the main teacher. She works with, there's 1, 2, 3. There's actually 4. If you can count me, there's 5 teachers that are here now. And so we're all working with the children a lot, and we're helping them. And a lot of it, okay, we're not psychiatrists, but we know that they've gone through trauma, and we try to talk to them to make them to think and feel better. So
support
that's
them.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really the main thing, because, Gary, I was 3 years old when my city, Bremerhaven, was bombed out, and we lived in the shelter. And so I get it, in our basement shelter, but there were 3-story apartment buildings, right? So we were next to the potato and coal bunkers, hanging out in the wet and cold, I get it. I totally understand it. And so let me ask you then another really silly question. How's the Baha'i faith coping right now?
Not good, but we did have an LSA meeting, the first one in a long time.
Really?
Earlier today.
Congratulations.
About, 5 or 6 of, I think 6, even 6 or 7 were in the meeting, and some of them have come back to Kyiv already.
Oh.
So 2 or 3 of them had been not in Kyiv. That's why we didn't meet. But today we had meetings, and we're trying to figure out, how to organize things. And but it's not enough, really. I mean, today we said, can we meet in person? And so some people said yes, some people said no. And so we said, okay, let's do yes and no.
We call it hybrid, right? Do it hybrid.
Yeah,
right.
The hybrid system, exactly. And but it's there's a lot of work that needs to be done, because really, if you want the history of the Baha'i faith in Ukraine, is that they were always came from the eastern side of Ukraine, not the western side.
Really?
Almost all of them. Even today, there's very few from the western side of Ukraine, which used to be part of Poland. That's right. They all started in the beginning, the faith, because all of the pioneers and all of the people who came to teach in the beginning, they were teaching in Russia and in Ukraine at the same time. But at that time, Russia and Ukraine, I think many people thought was the same country. Now, of course, we say, sorry.
No.
We're not the same country. And so we still have to do a lot of work. Although everybody now, because of the war and everything, everybody says, no speaking Russian. Let's speak Ukrainian. But many don't speak very good Ukrainian. Even the president of Ukraine, his native language is Russian, not Ukrainian.
Oh, you know, we all adore him. You know that, don't you?
Yes. Svetlana says, my wife just shouts out, but now he speaks really good Ukrainian, and he's really speaking a lot of Ukrainian.
Yeah, that's good.
You speak English into the telephone, please, my wife.
You know, yes. Well, may I ask you, and I don't want to assume, is your wife also leaning towards the Baha'i faith, or is she a friend of the Bahais?
She's Bahai, but the Bahai community here is not as integrated as we want it to be.
Okay, I understand.
So in that sense, even I would say we live in a rural area, and many people and the people in Kyiv think that we live too far away.
Oh yeah.
And I said, but here we have hundreds of parents from Kyiv who bring their children here. It's not too far away, you see. But it's just
it's an attitude, you know. I tell you, it's the same in Hawaii. You know, you live on the windward side. Hi, sweetheart. Oh my God, hi. It's so good to see you. This is exciting. Oh my gosh. You know, this is family. You realize that. You and we're all family, and we all support each other. If you cry, we cry. If I cry, I'm sure you'll say, well, get over it, but you know what I mean. So we just have to learn and figure out, you make such a cute couple. Oh my God. Two little lovebirds.
She goes to the what do you call it? The one who does the hair and the face. And
She is gorgeous, honey. You lucky.
Than me.
You lucky dog. You got a gorgeous wife. Lucky dog.
But I tell her when she eats too much, I say, no more eating.
Oh.
You're not allowed to get fat.
Okay. Now, you and I have to have a talk, girlfriend, because you know what? We're going to stop him from doing that, right? So this is his opinion, and then the women's talk, right? So we'll talk about that, what you call body shaming. We're not going to go there. He is spoiled. That's why he's got a gorgeous wife, and he just wanted to stay gorgeous.
She's crazy. She works crazy here on the farm and with these children.
I know.
Day and night. I ask her, how does she stop, because she never stops.
I know.
She's just now coming back from milking the goats.
Oh, milking the goats! Wow.
And she takes.
Do you know how many husbands have milking the goats' wives? You realize you're in the top 1% of the world.
but then she doesn't just milk the goats. She makes cheese. She makes what else do you make with
butter?
Milk? Butter. She makes butter.
Bread.
Brinzel, she says.
Yes, jams.
Tvorog. That's tvorog is what they call it.
Like yogurt?
Like yogurt,
yeah. That's what I thought.
She makes all of those things.
You are so spoiled. You're spoiled rotten. You're not spoiled. You're spoiled rotten.
She gives all. But most of that goes to the children and the
I know. It's such.
And actually, we also are. I built a greenhouse. Pizza, I wanted to say.
Yeah, greenhouse, yeah.
And so she said, "Oh, why did you do this greenhouse?" I said, "Because we're going to learn how to do it year round."
Yes, 24. That's right. Yes.
And so she said, "No." And in the beginning of the summer, she did not want to do it. Now she goes to the greenhouse at least twice a day. For the first time, we can have cauliflower, we have broccoli, we have all kinds of
asparagus, tomatoes.
All of those things we now are growing in our greenhouse.
Yes. And we had a greenhouse in our house too in North Seattle. Now we just have two what I call plastic little nurseries, right?
Yeah,
but you have to have something out of the wind and out of the snow and all of that, so you can.
Our greenhouse, because we have solar panels, we have an electric heater for the floor. So even during the winter, we can heat the floor, and it will heat the greenhouse, and it all comes from the sunlight, not from
you rock.
not from buying. Because, well, I mean, I do like to do some research, and so I like to do things. By the way, do you know Barb Kruger?
Yes.
She's just wrote me. She says, can you mail the Zoom link? Because we talk tomorrow at 10 o'clock your time in the morning. So there's a group from Canada that we usually meet a couple times a week.
Really? Now, tomorrow I'm at a conference for the Washington State Museum Association. So, and so I'm going to miss that. But in future time, I wonder if you can include me in some of that. Because
I think Barb would like that, I think. I'll tell Barb that to her. And because she's also working with some, Bahais that I knew when my children went to Maxwell School.
Oh, they did?
So I have two children who went to Maxwell School.
Oh, I know. It's up the street from me. You know, it used to be at Vancouver Island, not too far.
That's where all these guys are from, Vancouver Island. They're all from, all of them are the guys that I meet every couple of weeks, and we chat about what we're doing and what we... even I'm writing some things. I say, I will write, and then you give me feedback, whether it's good or bad. And so they like to do that. It's a very nice group.
In fact, I have a Bahai visiting me from Vancouver Island this Saturday. We're going to have lunch together and dinner together.
With who?
Deborah Klein Patton.
No,
she became a Bahai in Hawaii. You know, we have all these ex-Hawaiians everywhere. And no matter where they live, Vancouver, we're still ex-Hawaiian Bahais. That's it. I mean, we are forever bonded at the hips.
But if you go to Vancouver Island, visit Barb and some of the group there and say, call them and say, hey, I know Gary. Will you come meet with me?
Yes.
They're all great friends, and they think a lot, and they do a lot to help their community. So it's a nice group. It's about 6 or 7. We meet every couple of weeks.
So this is my question, Gary. I'm sure that you were unable to hold a conference in the Ukraine under circumstances, right?
Not yet.
No, not yet. But, you know, it's a 9-year plan, so no need to rush anything, right? So we call the smaller gatherings, like maybe on the farm, we call them gatherings rather than conferences. And in some places, it's more diplomatic to call them that, so you don't arouse the suspicion of other countries invading your local territory. And so small gatherings. And for those who are COVID sensitive, many of them have held them in the open, in parks or in community recreational areas. Is right. We just had ours. The average, what I call smaller cities, has around 100 people in it. So what I then like to even propose to you is, so the global, like, let's take the Pacific, PNG, right? This is really the area of Guam and Micronesia and all of that. You know what the councilors just did? Sending it down to the NSA. So it's sitting right now at the NSA floor. Think about this. They just gave them a goal in the first year of the 9-year plan for the first 3 years, each year, a goal of 10,000 new believers.
That would be great. We need it.
So all I can say to you is that after 25 years of consolidation, institute process in motion, and trying to figure out how we're going to consolidate ourselves, they're now going back to each one teach one. And they're setting unbelievable goals. And this is something that I'm very interested in, that I'm very motivated in, and that I have started the Nightingale campus, the Bahai Nightingale campus. I don't know if you're a member of that yet, but it's like any campus. You have to register first and get your own ID and password, and then everything on campus is yours. So it's called Bahai Nightingales .org, and it's all one word, lowercase. And then when you see the registration, you just register so nobody sees what you do, nobody has access to what you do. And then, so you should see Bahai Nightingales Bahai Nightingales.org. And then we have in there then our curriculum worksheets, and what we are doing we're doing it according to the culture where you live. So I am really interested in the culture where you live, because it's not the same as Seattle, right? And it's not the same as Guam, and it's not the same as Paris. So, yeah. So this is the kind of conversation in the era of Zoom. You're everywhere. But you need to be, the House of Justice says, teach those that are receptive in culture matters. And the Bahai Nightingales take those two aspects very serious, because then what we do, we get together and say, okay, my friend is really an agnostic, spiritual but not religious. You know, religion is the opium of the masses, or whatever you think, right? And then how do you present the future of that new race of men? And so we are really sort of turning upside down the whole idea of engaging with each other according to the reality and boots on the ground. And that's,
I'm looking at BahaiNightingales.org, and something came up, Buddhism and the Baha'i faith.
Oh, no, okay, no, so go back at the top. I know, that's all the choices. Go at the top, at the web link, and click on it again.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yes, it has an index. I can see it now.
Yeah, and so then you register there, and then our administrator, because what this is only for Baha'is who are interested in teaching or growth. Okay, this is not for collective teaching. This is only for individual teaching, right? This is your only duty and obligation is individual, and collective is obedience, right? So we want to make sure that we can assist each other by collaborating with each other. And it has in there, I'm going to tell our administrator, make sure to, let you, because we don't want to have what I call a bunch of Baha'is who don't care. They just want to do, let's say, devotionals, and they're not interested in teaching, right? So we want to make sure that this addresses individual teachers. And there's several NSA members who have contacted us because they realize that not in your NSA, obviously, but many parts, like, for instance, PNG, where growth, like Congo, just enrolled tens of thousands of Baha'is, right? So they must think that the PNG is maybe in that cultural mindset. Whereas I suspect that Ukraine is very much probably agnostic, atheist, maybe mystical, maybe somewhat Catholic. I don't know what the people on your farm, what do you know what people on your farm, what they kind of subscribe to?
In what sense?
From their religious, spiritual journeys. Mixed between what and what?
Well, there's about 3 different kinds of, let's say, Christian.
Yeah.
There's the Orthodox from Russia.
Of course.
And then the Orthodox now from Ukraine.
Okay.
And then the Orthodox even from Istanbul. And then you, on the very east, you do have Catholics on the eastern part of Ukraine. But then in the neighborhood where I live in Kyiv, you have American, religious groups.
Fundamentalist?
I would call them fundamentalists.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. And so all 4 or 5 of those that you mentioned all have different conversations, right? They have diversity of thoughts on Trinity, diversity on thoughts of loyalty, right? Different administration, even different popes. So or you have the fundamentalist, which is in Congo. In Congo, it's mostly Catholic, where they have tens of thousands of enrollments. It's mostly Catholic, fundamentalists, and Jehovah's Witnesses. And so all I'm just sharing is, yeah, go for it.
1 second, please. I need to turn the light on.
Okay.
I can't see.
Isn't this so interesting? It's interesting.
It's nice to be able to do this.
I mean, today, it's, who's that?
That's his grandma.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm 35.
He's turning the light on.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, honey. I can see you just fine. So what I wanted to share with you is that, you know, I was teaching in Romania, you know, some years back when they collapsed after Ceausescu, remember?
Yes,
and
of course.
so I'm kind of familiar with I've been in Vietnam in communist environments. I've been teaching in Vietnam and that part. So I'm somewhat sensitive to what I call Eastern Bloc communist leaning, right, teaching. On the other hand, then you have Catholicism of a variety, and you have then your fundamentalist Christians penetrating into the conversations. So this is what the Nightingales are all about. We'll say, well, my friend is Catholic, or no, my friend is fundamentalist, or my friend is, you know, spiritual, but I don't want to have anything to do. They are the cause of war, right? And so you had in Afghanistan today, 1,000 people got killed in an earthquake, right? And they don't know how to get there because it's in a complicated area of disasters today and last night. And so, but I want to offer to you, or even if it's useful, it may not even be useful. I want to be useful to you and your sphere of influence, or being on the NSA, even your overall picture, right? How can I assist you from what we have in the campus, the Nightingale campus, that is useful to you, that might help to open a conversation that stays away from proselytizing? Because we can't do proselytizing. Not only is it forbidden, but many Baha'is have a tendency to want to go into proselytizing, which is unattractive, which is not sustainable, and it really turns people off. And so, if each one teach one, I've been in lengthy conversations with Hooper Dunbar. And if you look at his Sweden talk in 2019, which we have posted on the Nightingale site, then that's where he really spells out the difference between collective and individual. And what is our duty, what is our obligation, what is our obedience, and we have to do both. And so, but how do you do it? But you have to read the reality on the ground, right? And I'm just giving, I don't know if you know Dr. Stephen Phelps. If not,
I know the name. But I don't know him well.
Okay, he's a cosmologist. Served in the archive
in Haifa.
In Haifa.
I've met him before in Italy at an EBBF meeting.
Oh yeah. So he is coming. He's been to our museum, and I'm taking our youth here through his course on science and religion at Stanford University. And then at the end, after the youth have gone through, then he's going to come and we're going to, go through a Q&A. And he's just finishing off a 7-week course on mysticism. So there are more of a general approach, academic approach. It's a conversation that leans more into the big picture rather than the small picture, right? But this is kind of what we do at the Nightingale campus. We even have a history department in there, and I am, just really motivated when I think of the people that you're sort of engaging with. And by the way, we're going to send you another modest payment, but we'd want to be part of your effort, not only because it makes us feel we're part of your pain, but we're also part of your solution.
It's definitely true. I also think, when we teach, the way we taught the faith many years ago, actually, if I were to describe Ukraine today, I would say that the most of the Bahais in Ukraine today were formed at the beginning of the Baha'i faith here in the, let's say, 1990, when it became independent. And that's when many became Baha'i, because people came here and taught to them, in a more one-to-one type of a fashion. And it made a lot of positive. Actually, I have a small video about it. And so, but since that time, I would say in the last 10 years, we don't see much at all.
Yeah.
Where people are now becoming more interested. They may be interested in what we're doing, but they're not so interested in becoming an official Baha'i, so to speak.
I hear you. This is a global scenario. And the counselors in their message to the PNG, to the NSA, said we need to consider new methods and approaches in conversations or in the arena of how do we, other than admiring us or being attendees with what we do, but we need to become part of the family. And and this is what the Nightingales, we spent 7 years of pulling together our campus. It is really a summary of 35 years of content building. I served in those days of the NTC in Hawaii under the NSA. And, Gary, I don't want to mention it, and please forget what I said, but I haven't wrote over 1,000 people. So, because I'm globally and culturally sensitive, right, and come from the European culture, lived in the Pacific, did a lot of work in Asia, and so I've never been to Africa. But I am talking about Book 6. So we are a branch course, if you want to, from the NSA perspective. The Nightingale campus is a branch course consideration to Book 6, Part 3, The Act of Teaching. Okay? Our services that we are considering in our training in is Book 2, Book 4, Book 6, book on public discourse and social action. This is what the Nightingales do, all right? So we're the service component. But Book 6 tells you all what to do, but it doesn't tell you how to do it. They leave it to the individual. And I'm talking to the youth, and they don't have a clue. They don't know. They know what to do, so they do, core activities. But when it comes to peer teaching or relating to their friends or even enrolling, it has been literally unattended. And they call me all the time around the world. Oh, my friend is a devout Christian. They live in South Africa. Or my friend is in the Marshall Islands and they're blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So we need to individualize, personalize each one, teach one, able to find a way to individualize and empower our young people. Because our boomers, we're okay. And Hawaii in the 89 went to Russia, right? Our Baha'i youth from the NSA of Hawaii, and I couldn't afford to go with them at that time. But we just had that out of Germany, right? That whole talk about how they went to Russia, and how then the Baha'i faith in the end, how some of them actually became NSA members. They moved back to Russia and then became NSA members. They're thinking of Renee and married a Russian and so on, right? So, but we're in the Ukraine in 2022. So let's readjust the boots on the ground. Let's talk realistically what we're up against. We're up against hunger. We're up against fear. We're up against a threat to our life. Now right there, this is something. What do we as Baha'is, other than prayers, they always say, oh, well, thoughts and prayers. You are the big deal about thoughts and prayers. You don't have planes running over your head. You don't have living on the eastern part. You don't understand. You're not hungry. I understand. I lived through it in World War II. I know when in school, I went to my mother home one day and said, Mother, have you ever heard of Anne Frank? Oh, no, not really. Well, she's wrote a diary, and I wanted to talk to you. How could you vote for him? And I had this really brutal conversation with my parents. And at 16, just barely turned 17, I left Germany because I just couldn't tolerate, at that in 59. So I became an au pair in England. Choose to stay with a Jewish family who all of her friends shunned me, you know. So I know a little bit of shunning, what it feels like. That's really horrible. And I know about starving when you only can afford one pair of shoes, but you're a growing teenager, so you still have to walk 4 miles with shoes that are way too small, and your clothes are made of curtains. And about the story of the last piece of bread on the table. Grandma isn't going to eat it. Mom isn't going to eat it. You aren't going to eat it, right? I know that. I've gone through it. So it makes me at least a more sympathetic teacher. But we need to collaborate when the house says culture matters. I want to talk to you, Gary, about your sphere of paper around you. How can we provide, as your counseling already does, but add a spiritual component where we can talk about their spirituality that hits home?
I think these days, of course, you know, when I was a young Bahai, we were very interested, of course, in general about, let's say, religious teaching.
Yeah.
But we were more interested in the
principles,
the principles, as well as the activism that was going on. For example, we needed to. I can tell you for sure. Even we were activists for women's rights. We were activists for a lot of different things. So we wanted to live a proper life.
Yeah.
That would follow spiritual principles. And that was where we were at.
That was then, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that the reality on that, same with me. I was a thief in the night Bahai. I lived in Hawaii, and we were social activists, let's call it that. And principle teaching was the agenda through much of the world, really. And our youth at that time, the 20, 30-year-olds, right? We were marching in the street and burning bras or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And so I get it. And then the reality on the ground now is that we are living with climate change. We are living with war. We are living with pandemics. So our youth, our 20, 30-year-olds are facing a very different reality, where then I'm saying, okay, Gary, you and I, let's look at it. First of all, realistically, who is in our sphere of influence? Who is my personal friend that I think may have a sense of receptivity? And if so I kind of turned around my enrollment approach now. I say now, instead of going through central figures and institution, all that, I say to them, I said, you know, if you ever in 100 years from now would consider becoming a Baha'i, if you ever would. I'm not saying because we don't believe in proselytizing, right? But if you ever were, how would you see yourself fitting into this Baha'i overall as a member of the Baha'i picture? How would you view yourself in that? You know what? They write romance novels on, and they'll say this and that and that and that and that. And I look at that, and I have a little questionnaire that what I call an enrollment sort of hot spotting it, right? It is working really beautiful because it's not in a proselytizing manner. They think it through how would they view themselves. And I tell you, those who have become Baha'is with that, that's exactly what they're doing. They say, oh, well, I like to do this. I like to write drama, or I like to read poetry, or I like to work in the Black community, or I like to... And that's exactly how we put into it. You know what? Because you need to have longevity. You can do consolidation work along the way, but you also need to help them to teach them their individual friends, because they're in a like-minded world.
Well, we're more or less thinking the same as usual. I mean, of course, if anybody wants to know about the faith, I'm ready to talk about it as best as I can.
Yes.
And help them with books. I help them with materials and help them with meetings, Ruhi, if they want. But I think in the beginning, I'm mostly talking about a social action that is so important today.
Yeah.
That if we don't deal with some of these things, we don't understand that we're going to be in a very bad situation.
That's what this whole museum is all about, that, right?
Yeah.
This is exactly right. And then when you talk to a 20, 30-year-old, it's very different to talk to a 60-year-old, right? And so when you talk to the 20-30ers, they have it all figured out. They got social media, they got Zoom, they got, you know, they're living in a different space and place. And yet, this is what we should take to our advantage, and then have them like-minded, what I call group hugs, or a Bahai group hug, right, where they can collaborate in an extremely broad level. And and the Nightingales are trying to look at not only a variety of seeker types, but we're also looking at different cultures, and we're looking at different types of receptivities. Now, you didn't have the conferences, but the world did have them, right? And so we're now looking, okay, now that you've had all these people, now what? Now what are you going to do? You're going to say, oh, huggy wuggy, we love you all, or are you going to actually do something, right? Now what?
Well, I'm gonna have to run, but let me tell you about Bahai Nightingales. I tried to log in, and please don't be unhappy with me. I lied to them.
Okay, no, I don't. It's fine. So all you need.
But let me tell you what I lied about. They wanted to know, what is your cluster number?
Oh, yeah.
I said, I don't know the cluster number.
Yeah,
so
we know that.
So I made one up.
Yes.
And so now they write to me. They agreed. They let me in.
Oh, good. Okay.
I get an email back. Your account has not been approved yet, probably because of that cluster number.
You know, we do that because in the U.S., because when you live in the South, it's very different when you live in the North, right? Culture. Yeah. We're trying to think about culture. And I'm going to ask Wes to take it out, the cluster number, because lots of other NSAs are joining it, and they don't, you know. And so I'm going to tell him that we're beyond.
I'm on the NSA here. I never have I ever heard of a cluster.
Yeah, I know it. This is typical U.S., right? So I'm going to ask him to remove it. But can you look around in there or not yet?
Yes, I'm inside, but it won't let me go in until I think my account is approved.
Okay. That, you know what we're doing? We're trying to prevent seekers penetrating into this, and what we're trying to do is, so the administrator would say, do you know so-and-so? Like he'll say, hey, do you know Gary? He's trying to get in. Yeah, I know Gary. So we're having the Nightingales being really a personal recommendation, where we say, you know, our friend over there, he's 27 years old and he would love to teach, he just doesn't know how. And so we like to go by referrals, because this is really not for the average Baha'i community. They're very engaged in core activities, and teaching is not at all on their agenda. So there's no need to bother them, because it's only for those who actually want to learn how to each one teach one. You know, I'm trained by the hands in Hawaii. Honolulu was the gateway from every hand going from the east to the west, and they took vacation time in Hawaii for a month or so. And then they would whip us into shape and told us to Velcro it and zip it and don't talk and listen and learn, right?
Well, I wrote a little bit about the number of hands that I knew in my life, and even who helped me.
I know.
I think 6 or 7 at least, maybe even more. I can't really, I have to look and remember.
Yeah. We were fortunate.
I mean, for example, when I first went to Haiti, which was in...
Was Moro there already? Moro Baruch?
In 1975, Enoch Olinga was in Haiti.
Yes, he was.
And I met him there. And actually, I asked him, I said, I think I can only be here for 2 years. What do you think? I should stay? He said, no, go to Africa.
Yes.
So I went to Africa.
Enoch Olinga. Where did you go in Africa?
I started in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. And I worked for a regional organization that was Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Togo.
Wow.
But after that, I can add 10 more countries. So I was in a lot of Africa. Actually, I joked to my wife. I say, I'm tired of Ukraine. I'm going back to Africa. She said, she says, no, you're not going anywhere.
No.
I said, okay.
You're at my bosom, guy, and you better stick to it because this is where you belong. And besides,
Exactly.
now you're in the center of such a need that you can't even, everybody would dream to be there on your farm and assist you with that, right? So you're really,
I hope that comes. I hope that when the war settles down that we have groups coming back.
Yes.
And doing the kind of teaching that you're describing in this Nightingales, I think is important here, because that's what they need. They need that direct contact, I think.
They need not only the direct contact, but you know, it really the teacher feels so engaged and valued when then somebody comes in and then they accompany them into their family, friends, neighbors, and all of that, and then you start to go deep instead of wide, right? And which is what we need to do. And we just need to get that critical mass of going deep, motivated again. And this is where we'll see some real true growth happening. And I know you have to go, but just to be assured, Gary, that look at it with a critical eye, look at the seeker engagement worksheets. And we do have regular reflection meetings where we come in and say, okay, well, I'm in the Ukraine and my person is a Roman Catholic or is an Orthodox Catholic, and we learn from you, you learn from us, we learn from each other. So we do have accompaniment, and it's so great to see you today and meet your wife. It's so fun. So,
yeah, she's now holed up in her office, probably getting ready for her classes tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. Well, just hugs to everybody, right? And tell them that Seattle cares and we just love you all and we'll be there to keep supporting you.
Thank you. And to you also, much love to you and all of your kindness is wonderful. Take care.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.